Welcome to the Boomer Briefing Podcast, where we help you solve a critical business issue in 20 minutes or less. I'm your host, Jon Hubbard, shareholder and consultant here at Boomer Consulting. And with me today is Gary Boomer. Hi, Gary. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Great to be here, John.
Most of you know Gary, but Gary is the founder of Boomer Consulting and, among other things, really specializes in innovation and growth. So we have a great topic here for you, how your firm should be thinking about exponential growth opportunities. So Gary, I'm going to start you off with an easy question. What are the best growth opportunities for most firms today?
Well, I think the large firms have proven it over the past 5 years that consulting and advisory services are really where all the growth is happening. I think you hit on a key word, though, is that in our profession, we have been wired to think incremental rather than exponentially. And when you start thinking exponentially, most CPAs and accountants immediately jump to 10x in revenue. But I would encourage people to jump to 10x in how can we improve the value we offer the client and the service we offer the client. From those, the revenue will come. But what we're seeing is that firms have packaged and priced services in the past, primarily hours times dollars. But when you get in these new higher valued services, the old way of pricing, particularly when you have a lot of technology and automation involved, simply doesn't result in the value that you're providing the client. So I think we have to step back and look at how you provide these services, what's needed to provide the service, because it really requires real-time data. And that's where some of the basic transactional things that firms have always offered still have value. But there are also different skill sets required. And as we said, the pricing model is different. And I don't want to leave people with just the overall big picture. I want to get down far enough that there truly are opportunities today in new fields like esports. That's growing tremendously. You take agriculture. We're looking at vertical farms today. We're looking at different types of agriculture and far more sophisticated and high-tech agriculture. Medical, the same thing, construction, entertainment, restaurants, retail, service, e-commerce. And the last one I'm going to mention is the crypto market. I think it's a big opportunity for accounting firms to use their knowledge of tax and financial reporting, but they have to understand this new financial platform that's being used rather than the old dollar or the euro or the yen or whatever it is. We've got to learn how that all works.
That's really good, Gary. And so I think what you just kind of summarized there is there's no shortage of exponential growth opportunities in our profession. So with that in mind, what's holding firms back? How come firms aren't moving as quickly towards some of these exponential opportunities as we'd like to see?
Well, the simple analogy that I like to use is I think oftentimes we get caught picking dollar bills up off the floor when we could be picking up $100 bills off our desk. And so we're missing this exponential opportunity. But, it's not that difficult to come up with several things that might be holding an individual or a firm back, but I'll give you some of them. The first one's probably success. I had a partner tell me that his partners didn't listen to him very well when they had $100 bills in their ears. And I think many in the profession are making more money than they've ever made. So it's difficult to get them to change. I think also that many people have grown up with a fixed mindset. I'm the smartest person in the room. I passed the CPA exam. I must add the value. Well, I don't think we add value as an individual today. I think we add value as a team. So getting away from some of those fixed mindsets into we really need to grow to sustain success and be future ready. The other thing, some of our processes are out of date, and we're still using the technology with the old processes. So you have to bring those together. And then finally, I think what's holding firms back the most is their lack of capacity in this area. And I've had several people tell me that we know we need to get into this area. We just don't have time. We're busy doing what we're doing. And the second reason they give is our people don't feel comfortable in a consulting or an advisory relationship. Many of them were trained to be technicians, and they feel very comfortable doing the compliance work. So there's a need for training there. But the one word of caution I would say is don't get too involved in how to do this. Find the who's that can do it. And they may be in different places than where you've looked for the who's in the past.
Agreed. And so you really touched on success, mindset, process, and tech, as well. Can you dive in a little bit about mindset? Sometimes when people hear mindset, they may think, oh, that's pie in the sky. That doesn't really relate to our profession. Can you just speak on the mindset piece a little bit?
Absolutely. I think one of the keys to that is being a lifelong learner. And while we have lifelong learning requirements as a profession, that doesn't mean that we're taught to learn more skills, but we're generally taught to learn skills at a much deeper level. So when I'm saying mindset, we've been trained as a profession that accuracy and after the fact reporting are of utmost value. I'm telling you, with automation, that's changing, and we're spending less hours in aggregating data and reporting than we ever have. So we have to think differently. And the services that new clients or existing clients want today, in addition to those compliance services, where am I headed in the future? How do I get there? What's the roadmap or strategic plan? And how can I hold my people and myself accountable to get there? So many of these services require less labor and technical skills that we just don't see the value as technicians. But the clients who are running businesses, entrepreneurs, that's what they want, are relationships and people they can trust. So the transactional and compliance services have often required independence. I've heard that since I became a CPA. But many of these new services, they really require more leadership, creativity, and I guess you could just label it innovation. They're looking for us to provide value to them.
I was just on a call, Gary, and that was excellent. I was just on a call, Gary, with a group of kind of accounting leaders globally. And we were talking about this issue around mindset from a global, perspective. And one thing I shared with the group, and I think this would be in line with what you just said, is our profession, because it has been kind of trained and taught to focus on the, accuracy and historical telling of a story, maybe for a client's financials, that because of that, our profession is very much a permission-based profession. They want permission from someone externally in order to think about offering services such as visioning, strategic planning, and accountability. And what I'm saying over here, and I've heard you say this too, don't wait for someone else to give you permission to offer those types of services and to start having a conversation with your clients about those things. You already have permission. You don't need it from someone else. Would you agree with that statement, Gary?
Absolutely. And I think there's a differentiator here. Leaders and entrepreneurs increase value and take resources to a higher level of value. Whereas I think bureaucrats and much of our government today are taking the resource and trying to acquire more access to resource, but they're really not taking it to a higher level of value. So you have to be innovative and entrepreneurial here to take advantage of that.
I love that. So thank you for sharing your thoughts on the mindset piece. Let's talk a little bit about the process and technology components. Those are so closely integrated, today. Speak on that a little bit from a process and tech perspective.
Sure. I think we used to kind of separate those two, and we were looking for efficiency from the process, and we were looking innovation from the technology. Well, in recent years, I know in our own consulting company, we put those two together and converged them because there's a lot more automation going on than most people are aware of in their silo. And this will take you up the value chain because there's AI, machine learning, robotics. We're eliminating a lot of what I would call the lower value task of data entry. And once you're digital, you can do things. You don't have the reconciliation issues. You don't have to be checking people's work all the time. That can really be automated. And the whole DMAC principle is define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. And Lean Six Sigma got somewhat of a bad rap because people were talking about it just being about efficiency. Well, I think the lean part of it is efficiency. The Sigma part of it is accuracy. And when you put technology in there, you add innovation and capabilities. And that's one of the big things that you get out of these lean projects is you get increased capacity. And the good news is there's a lot of help out there. Companies like ours help firms. And then there's help from the vendors like Intuit, Intact. Several of those leading vendors have resources to help retrain some of your people, because your people can actually be one of the biggest obstacles or resistors to change that we have to face.
Nope. That's great, Gary. Can you speak on the capacity piece? So you said that word, we hear that word more often. We actually talk with clients about kind of capacity of, what are you going to do with that time that is being, generated from automation or efficiency. Can you speak about capacity a little bit as well?
Sure. Capacity, as you say, is a word that's used, and generally it's we don't have enough of it. Mm-hmm. But let me talk about capacity versus capability. Firms today are limited by capacity because they're doing transactional and compliance work. When you get into advisory services and consulting, you're generally limited by the capability. So there's different limitations there. And sometimes people may think those are the same, but when you're at a higher value, you're really improving the client experience as well as increasing your fee. But there's a trap here, and I want to make firms well aware. If you just focus on efficiency, and let's say you do a 1040 project and you reduce your time in that project by 20%. Now, theoretically, you should increase your margin. But what most firms end up doing is they just do more of the same. And some people have even been caught in the trap of reducing the price because they have fewer hours in the engagements. Now, I know all you managing partners say we never do that, but I have to tell you, I have seen it happen. And that's why we need some way to change our pricing to a subscription package where the messaging is on the advisory and consulting services, not on the compliance and transaction. And we're able to deliver those in a very timely fashion. So I think we really have to address this capacity issue just for survival, not only for survival, but hopefully for thrival into the future.
Absolutely. Now, Gary, something I've heard you say over the years as we've worked together is we need to think about our thinking, right? You're helping clients tackle big issues like this, big opportunities, big topics. And sometimes clients just don't know actually how to think about their thinking. Is that statement relevant here? And what would you add to that?
Yeah, it's probably become even more relevant in the last year or two, in that what most people think about are things or processes, and we really don't spend enough time thinking about our own businesses as accountants. We tend to think more about the client and try to solve their problem. But what's really happened over the last 50 years is accounting uh, has been a profession that's been in automation for 50 years. You know, I haven't been around the whole time, but I've been around a good portion of that time. And I'll tell you, we've been in automation the whole time. But here's the thing, Ray Kurzweil has a law, and you probably heard of Moore's law, where the processing power doubles every 18 months and the cost is reduced. Well, that really produced pretty level gains. And then in the last 5 years, that's an accelerating return. And what we're seeing is that processing power, bandwidth, storage capacity have all grown exponentially over our careers. And this is a reality. And as Dan Burris says, it's a hard trend. So you're not going to change this fact. And it's my belief and experience that firms who think about their own transformation can add value to their clients, because you're really all small businesses. Firms are small business just like your clients. And if you solve these things for yourself today, you've added value for your clients.
Well, Gary, this has been great. And one question we like to wrap up each episode with, as we kind of close out, is what advice would you give our listeners in terms of the next steps they can take, right? What are some action items they should, once they turn this podcast episode off, go and think about starting to do? What's your thoughts there?
Well, I don't want to make this sound too easy, because sometimes simplification is all you need to have the courage to move forward. And that's really what I want, is to simplify the problem enough so that you'll move forward. But the answer is complex in some way, because you're changing attitudes. Well, you're changing mindset, skill set, and tool set. And people have got to get out of their silos today in small business, in accounting firms, and they got to collaborate rather than just cooperate. And there's a huge difference there. So how do you do that, and how can we improve the firm's results, I think, is the question. And the simple answer is, you need to sit down and take some time to define your vision. What do you want to be, do, have, experience, and create over the next 3 years? And some people like to go longer, but I'm telling you, let's look at this in shorter period of time, because it's changing rapidly. So that's step number one. Step number two is come up with the roadmap or the plan to do that. And step number three is hold yourself and others accountable. Now that sounds simple, but I've always read that accountability is the quickest way to change and improve results. So I think that's probably the best answer I can give with the highest level of probability of success.
No, that is excellent advice. So, Gary, we're getting to the end of our episode here. I know you write a lot about this topic. You speak a lot about this topic. Where can people contact you on social media?
Well, on social media, Twitter or LinkedIn, LG Boomer, lgboomer@boomer.com or boomer.com, or just go do a Google search. Fortunately, we're high enough in the search that you're probably going to find something where we're writing or speaking or have some type of event. Yeah. But This is an international or global challenge for our profession, and we're not the only profession that's being challenged right now.
I agree. All right. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in for this episode of the Boomer Briefing podcast. If you want to reach out to Gary, reach out to him on social media. He'd be happy to, speak with you about any of these topics. And if you like this topic, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. We release new episodes every Tuesday morning. So please subscribe. Thanks so much.